Good morning. Hello, test. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Online. This is it, the preview show for Canelo versus Jacobs. That's what we're looking for. Fantastic. This is it, the preview show, Canelo versus Jacobs for the Undisputed Middleweight Championship of the World. Let's make sure that my volume is up so you all can hear me quite clearly. It's a good fight. Two of the best in the world. As good as it gets for the middleweight division, barring Gennady Golovkin and a couple of others. This is the best middleweight fight to be made out there. Both guys champions. Both guys proven. Both guys have fought the best in the world. So why not this be a super fight? And why, as a person like myself, not particularly excited about this fight? I'll tell you a few reasons, but let's get into this fight a bit more. Do you know what we're going to do today? Just for a bit of fun. Let's see if we can get into the studio today. We sure can get into the studio. So, there we go. Right. So we're talking Canelo versus Jacobs for the Undisputed Middleweight Championship of the World. Hi, this is BWTM Online. I'm Ingram Jones. Okay, so my initial feelings about this fight. A lot of money on the table for Canelo. We've heard how much money is for him when he signed for the Zone. So it's a lot of money. His first fight against Rocky Fielding. When you think about it now, prepared Canelo to fight Jacobs. I'm only thinking about this on the fly. Like, just thought about it. Rocky Fielding was a super middleweight, big, tall super middleweight. Not as talented as Jacobs. Let's get something straight here. Not as talented as Jacobs, but still big and strong, long arms, similar dimensions to Jacobs, length, height. Maybe Fielding might be a little taller. Same sort of gangly sort of style. Of course, Jacobs is a far better technician, but up at super middleweight. How did Canelo move and feel at super middleweight? You know, and he looked pretty effective and quite devastating, even though it's Rocky Fielding, but he put Rocky Fielding away pretty quickly. Danny Jacobs, the miracle man. Often people talk about Tyson Fury and how he's made his comeback, you know, through alcoholism and depression and all the rest of it. But people forget about Danny Jacobs, who was laying in a hospital, considered, you know, his life was going to be over with cancer. This is not a self-inflicted, eating and boozing away. This is somebody that was unfortunate to have cancer. And to come back from that, when the doctor said he wouldn't box again, to come back from that and to become middleweight champion of the world again and operate at elite level, this man, you know, he's a legend in itself doing just that. To overcome the odds when the doctor said no and he said yes. That's a great story for Danny Jacobs. And no matter what happens to Danny Jacobs now, he has already surpassed his achievements. If you think that he wasn't really expected to go any further, if you look at it from a doctor's perspective and from a medical perspective. So how do I view this fight? I think Canelo is a very good fighter, and I think eventually he'll go down into the Hall of Fame. Danny Jacobs, I think Danny Jacobs is a good boxer. I think against Triple G, he was literally terrified of G's punching power, and he was concerned not to get knocked out. Yes, he let his hands go, but he had reservations every time because of Triple G's punching power. And he was concerned about just how hard Triple G hit. I think if he didn't go in with that mindset against Triple G and was a little bit more confident in his own durability and his resistance to take G's power, I think we might have seen a better performance from Danny Jacobs. So my thoughts are, you know, he put on more weight for that fight. I think was for him to be absorb the punishment. Now, when I look back at that fight and look at Triple G and Canelo are almost two the same type of fighter. They don't like movers. They don't like guys who give them lateral movement. They like guys that stand in front of them, guys that will want to have a war with them so they can let their punches go. They're the type of guys that like you coming straight forward at them so they can rock back and counter and do their stuff. But they don't like to be hunting you down when you're a mover, when you're a slickster, when you've got a jab and you've got a bit of movement. It's kryptonite to these guys. More so Golovkin, but I always said that about Golovkin. And Canelo showed that. And for all the talk about Golovkin and his punching power, Canelo was considered a small middleweight. A small middleweight. Let's remember that when Golovkin fought him. And now he's considered a big middleweight. Well, you know, when I look at Canelo now, this guy is a super middle light heavy. You know, he was boxing as a light middle, if you remember, moving into middleweight. And people say he was going to be small middleweight. So he's coming to middleweight, box at middleweight consecutively. And I think he's been boxing over the middleweight limit more as a super middle or light heavy when he come fight night. He, for me, I'm not sure about him and G because G is taller, but I'm not sure if physicality-wise, whether G is stronger than Canelo. A strange thing to say that maybe Canelo might be the bigger puncher. Simply because G's punching power against the very best has seen him go to points. He didn't knock out Jacobs. Couldn't get rid of, couldn't knock Kell Brook out. And then in 2 fights against Canelo, he couldn't budge him. You know, so I think to myself, I ask myself a lot of questions about the actual how hard a puncher G really is at elite level. Well, you know, I always talk about Julian Jackson, the Hawk Jackson, who's been on the channel many a time, legendary puncher. This guy was, you know, the very, very best. Even guys like Terry Norris, when Jackson hit you, you knew about it. So Julian Jackson, one of these guys, if he hit you, you stayed hit. And more often than not, you stayed hit, hurt, knocked out, cold, on the floor, not getting up. That's the kind of guy Julian Jackson was, going through the middleweight division. And as he moved up ranks, the punching power was still with him. You know, key fights, way he knocked at Terry Norris, the way he was, Harold Graham was doing so well. And with one eye, he was still able to put Harold Graham out. He knocked Harold Graham out in a way that nobody's ever done to Harold Graham. So, and that was one eye, blinded in one eye as well. The kind of punching power this man carried. So I don't see that with Triple G. I think Canelo is a more accurate puncher. I think he's got better boxing IQ than G. I think he's defensively, pardon me, bless me. I think he's defensively more cute than G. He's the kind of guy that can slip some shots and then let his shots go. He will let you throw a jab. He will slip under it and throw a right hand over the top. He's a guy that will let you throw your punches like he did with Khan and then loop a right hand over the top. Canelo, where he might not be a faster foot, his ring IQ, his jab, and his boxing ability, and not speed of foot, but positioning and timing is exceptional. And it's something to make a man miss at the elite level. I'm not talking about making Joe Bloggs miss. He's making elite guys Cotto. Do you know what I mean? He's making Golovkin miss. He's a guy, Golovkin, who had a great amateur pedigree. Make him miss, make him pay. Kirkland, a guy that was knocking people out through the division, making them miss, making them pay. Chavez Jr., miss, pay. You go through it. You go through Canelo, and all those say he's slow. He's got great head movement, good upper body movement, and he's the kind of guy that you just make you miss by fraction and punish you for it. When I look at Danny Jacobs, yeah, he's a good middleweight. Yeah, he's had some good wins. But since the Golovkin fight, in my personal opinion, he hasn't excelled from that. He has stayed at that same place. And if your boxing's about timing and seeing, well, is this the right time to fight him? And I think Canelo's team have picked the right time to fight Danny Jacobs. Because although Danny Jacobs is a good fighter, he's a quality middleweight, there's no performances, bar the Peter Quillin fight, that you think, wow, this guy is a beast. You don't think that when you think Jacobs. You think solid, good jab, good combination puncher, good counter puncher, good, decent. That's what you think of Jacobs. You don't think outstanding. You don't think devastating. But then when you look at Canelo, he's just that. If Jacobs is good or very good, then Canelo is excellent. And why do I say that? It's the way he's dispatching opponents, the way he is outclassing opponents, the way you go and look at a Canelo fight, you go, wow. The way he took apart Rocky Fielding, the way he dealt with Khan, moved up in weight and beat Rocky Fielding. Okay, Rocky Fielding isn't great. Dispatched of him, though. Anybody who doesn't belong in his presence, dispatches, gets rid of. The way he got rid of Khan, one shot, bang, turned his head away. When as soon as he landed shot, he turned his head away, knew what had happened. The fight against Kirkland, the way he did it with Julio Chavez Jr., different fights. The way he fought Golovkin, particularly the second fight against Golovkin, when people said, don't run, you're running. Abel Sanchez said, don't run, stand and trade. He stood and trade, being the smaller guy, and he backed G up. You know? And he was able to take the tremendous puncher, the one-punch wonder. He was able to take his shots, walk through them, and keep coming. As much as I love the Jacob story, and as much as I have fallen in love with the whole, the Miracle Man and stuff, Jacobs is good. He's tough. He's strong. He's talented. And he's a champion. And you can't really knock Jacobs for that. But is he at the peak of his career? I would argue if he is at the peak of his career, I would say he's on the slide. Huh? Yes. I think Jacobs is on the slide. I don't think he's getting any better. I think he's there. And when you do that in boxing, the next thing is there for me. And I just think Jacobs is on. He's on. The word decline for a young man, a 30-year-old man, I think he's 30, is a bit harsh. But I don't see, there's like a snap missing with Jacobs. The Arias fight he had was boring as hell. I like Jacobs, but he's not devastating. And I think that's the difference. I could see Canelo turning Jacobs' lights out like that. I could see that happening. Jacobs going about his business, and boom, Canelo turning it around. Way for Austin Trout, another fight. Trout doing well, one shot. And Trout's legs never been dropped like that before in his career. If you look at it's that thing, it's that ability to do something great when necessary. And despite Jacob's challenges outside the ring, and he's a legend for that, inside the ring and the fights he's had, yeah, he fought well against G. I thought he fought scared against G. What I think will happen in this fight in His mindset is, well, you know what? I learned from the Golovkin fight, and Golovkin's a big puncher, and I didn't get knocked out by him. And, you know, I've grown in stature. I'm a champion now. So he may go out there thinking, and I think making a mistake, thinking that Canelo doesn't hit as hard as G, and that would be a miscalculation. I think that Canelo is a better puncher than G. Why? Because he's more accurate with his punches. And he's not trying to load up with one big shot. He's looking to hit you 3 or 4 punches, and he's making you miss and making you pay with that. Just a better quality, sharper puncher, cleaner puncher, more impressive. Golovkin, for me, is more of a thudding puncher. Canelo is a guy who put 2 and 3 punches together. He hit with a good shot and then catch you 2 or 3. Sharp, sparkly. Where Golovkin always seemed to me like he was a bit... Against the better fight, he seemed not missing with the left hook a lot. You see him missing that big left hook, or the right hand missing and grazing against the better fighters in the division. I noticed that. And I just think timing's everything. And I would like to see Canelo fight Jacobs when Jacobs was fighting Golovkin that night. That Jacobs and that night, around that time, and not now. I just think Jacobs, I think Canelo's team have got him at the right time. And I think he'll land better punches on Jacobs than Jacobs is going to expect. And it's that thing where Jacobs is going to need his jab. He's going to need to establish his jab in this fight. But when Canelo is able to slip and roll and getting slipped to the sides, make him miss with that jab, that's an uncomfortable thing because Jacobs likes to set everything up off the jab. Canelo's little feints, his jab, his feints, his head movement, his head rolls. And when he's not there, when Jacobs is trying to set up that jab, Canelo is going to be coming back with something. This is going to be an interesting fight, don't get me wrong. But I don't see it as a 50-50 fight. People say 50-50 when they don't know. They're not sure. I think this is 75-25, really, in Canelo's favor. Because we've got to think about it. The judging, there's no way they're going to give Jacobs the decision over Canelo if it's tight. That's the first thing. And secondly, the judges. You know, I don't see it happening. With so much money on the table with Canelo, and a third fight of Triple G just around the corner to be made in potentially September. Really? You think they... No, I don't see it. I don't see it. So Jacobs is going to have to knock Canelo out. And by coming forward, because you're not going to do it off the back foot, by coming forward and trying to knock Canelo out or go for the knockout or look for the knockout, he then walks into Canelo territory, which means slip, miss, pay, good night. And where G may have hurt Jacobs in the fight on a number of occasions, I think that Canelo is that bit sharper, that much more accurate, and that much more intelligent in the ring than Golovkin to capitalize on Jacobs' mistakes. Jacobs has the orthodox southpaw style he can use to switch things up and confuse Canelo. And that might work for a while, but once Canelo works him out, and Canelo will work him out, that's going to be another problem. I only see Canelo in this fight. I really do. I just think that Jacobs hasn't come in for me. He hasn't come in a run of impressive string of knockouts to suggest that he's got that sort of knockout power that concerns me. Like for Canelo, against Canelo. He hasn't got that kind of knockout power. You know, again, if Jacobs had the punching power of Julian Jackson, yeah, maybe I'd be concerned. But as I said, well, it's the biggest puncher that Canelo's faced. True, but Canelo's probably the best defensive fighter that Jacobs has fought. So it's all right being a big puncher, but you have to be able to land it. And for him to be able to land it, he's going to have to take chances. And for him to take chances, there's more chances of Jacobs getting knocked out. So you see, Jacobs has to chase this fight. From the start, he has to chase this fight. Canelo just needs to get to 12 rounds. Crowd might boo-boo. They might boo-boo. Boo. But it ain't make no difference. How many times have we seen fights in boxing matches where a guy you know have definitely got his ass whooped, but yet you turn around and you notice afterwards, boo, boo, commentators say, oh, this is disgusting, this is a travesty. Yeah, and you get the rematch, and those guys get paid again. So for me, and I can't see that, I can only see the only way I see Jacobs knocking Canelo out is by Canelo doing something utterly stupid. Just don't see it. Don't see it. I think he's too smart, too slick. Hits too hard. And he does the weight better. I think he can do super middleweight and light heavyweight and fight comfortable at that weight. Whereas I'm not sure Golovkin does. And that's the difference. So for me, I'm going with Canelo on this one. I'd love to see Jacobs do it, but I'm going Canelo. Sharper, more impressive. Jacobs, good, very good. Canelo, excellent. Jacobs, star boxer, yes. Canelo, superstar boxer. Yes, that's what I see. When I look back and I think to myself, well, would Danny Jacobs be a Hall of Fame middleweight? Well, if he be Canelo, maybe. But Canelo and Jacobs, those two guys, would they have beaten the likes of a Nigel Benn, a James Toney, a Chris Eubank, a Mike McCallum, a Julian Jackson? Would they have beaten those middleweights? I asked myself the question. Back in the day. I mean, where would you put Jacobs in with a Hagler, Leonard, Hearns, Duran, Barkley? Where would you put Jacobs with that? And you start scratching and thinking, nah, I don't see you there. Canelo, I think, may stand a better chance. Because again, that he is a versatile fighter. He can move forward, he can go back, he can go from side to side, and he has been impressive of what he's been doing. So it shows me he may have just a little bit more to offer. Whereas I'm not too sure about Jacobs. A good fighter. How does he do against these guys at middleweight? So interesting. Yeah. The fight I would love to see is Canelo versus Callum Smith. That's an interesting fight. That's a fight I'd love to see. They both like going to the body. I think Smith is a bit stiff when he's pushed back against the ropes. Doesn't quite know what to do. And I like Canelo. I like him a lot. So those are my thoughts on Canelo versus Jacobs. But like I've said before, if Canelo wants to win this, if Jacobs wants to win this fight, he has to do it by knockout. And if he does, then that is going to be the most impressive fight of Danny Jacobs' career. But I see Canelo knocking Jacobs out. Yeah, I do. I see Canelo breaking Jacobs down and knocking him out. I just don't think Jacobs... I won't say he's a faded force. I just don't think he's... I just haven't been impressed with his run-up to fighting Canelo. And that's the difference. But I have been impressed with Canelo's run-up to fighting Jacobs. That's the difference. If you disagree, if you agree, let me know your thoughts and love to know what you're thinking. Of course, before I go, check out the videos that we've got here on the channel at the moment. We've got James Bashir training with Vlad Tsarenko, an in-depth look at this legendary trainer, training 50 years. For those who don't know, Bashir's been around for 50 years, worked side by side with the great Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel Stewart would go to Bashir often to talk tactics and strategy. So check that out. Check that video out. Check out our interview with Michael Hunter and his thoughts on the heavyweight division. And of course, now we know Andy Ruiz is going to be fighting Anthony Joshua. Just his thoughts on the heavyweight division. Check out Vlad Tsarenko and his interview with us on the channel. And for those of you who are not aware and have been watching the videos, the video I did on BWTM Sports with me doing some pad work with James Ellerby, check out the live pad session I did with Xavier Miller from IQ Boxing, which is in Neasden. Check that out with Yusuf Kamari, unbeaten, and Adrian the Ruler Redmond. Check that out. Check out their interviews as well. Check out Xavier Miller and his interview talking about why he thinks pad work is overrated. So check all those interviews out and check out all the other stuff, not just boxing, but the other stuff out. Check us out. Follow us on Facebook, BWTM Online. Like us on Instagram, BWTM Online. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And by the way, thank you so much for the subscriptions. We're getting at least 250 to 300 subscriptions a day on the channel. I understand it, but yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and much love to you all. Thank you. Keep supporting. Keep your head up high. This is BWTM Online, and I guess we're out here. Thanks for watching the preview show of Canelo versus Jacobs this Saturday night, May the 4th. Actually, my mum's birthday as well. Happy birthday, mum, for that day. At T-Mobile Arena, and it's live on DAZN.